Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
I am good.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, there was a lot of Oscar nominations and Last of Us this past Sunday, which I know we'll be talking about both of those things tonight. So, yeah, looking forward to doing it.
Yeah. You know you made a mistake today.
How did I make a mistake?
You're gonna because you have gotten into this habit of any time when we get on the phone, you're like, Sarah, did you watch the trailers? Like, you give me the dad voice of like, do I need to be disappointed in my child or proud of my child? I don't know. Answer the question honestly. And so you didn't ask me that. And I remember looking at the rundown and seeing Invincible season 2 trailer. Mm-hmm. I didn't watch it.
Oh, come on. Well, see, the reason why I didn't ask you is because you reacted to you retweeted the thing I had posted about the trailer, and the trailer is like awesome. I mean, as far as just how meta it is.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I retweet a lot of things.
I know
on
you do.
Twitter. I have happy thumbs. Okay.
Yeah, you do have happy thumbs. You're just like Mark in that trailer, because Mark was sitting there with Alan, the alien, who they're sitting in the old burger joint that Mark used to work at, and it's great because they're talking. Mark's just thumbing through his phone, scrolling. And Alan basically sort of catches us all up on where they've been. And the reason why I said it's also meta is because in the middle of the trailer, Alan asks Mark, what have you been up to? And Mark starts saying, well, look, I've been recording audio and been drafting storyboards. And, he was basically, talking about all the things they've been doing, because obviously it's been since I guess 2020. Since it's been that, yeah, I guess, or 2021 the first season dropped. So it's been a long time.
Wow.
I mean, it's been a while, and I know we covered it and really enjoyed it.
I remember watching it. I honestly might have to watch like previously on Invincible to remember, because it does feel like they took a very long break in between seasons. And I remember even seeing online like the trailer's out and I saw your tweets and I retweeted. Okay, let's just call a spade a spade. Just because I retweet things, people, doesn't mean I've actually read what I'm retweeting, or B, watched what I'm retweeting. Okay, I go on there. I'm very distracted these days on my Twitter timeline with other things. Yeah. And so anytime I happen to see CNN Nerd tweet something, I'm like, retweet. Retweet. Just help it out.
Get into how the sausage is made, y'all. But but it's a great trailer. But the cool thing about it, it's very, like I said, it's very meta. So when you do watch it, or whenever you watch it, Sarah, spoiler alert for you, because I'm sure folks who are listening to us have probably seen it already, but I know what I'm talking about. But it's an awesome trailer. I forgot Seth. When I was watching it, I was like, who voices Alan? Because that voice is so distinctive, and I forgot it was Seth Rogen, and who was also one of the producers of the show. And
when does it come back?
Late 2023. And that's verbatim from the trailer.
It's going to be December 30th.
Yeah, they'll come after the boys, whenever that drops. But yeah, late 2023, and they're filming seasons 2 and 3 back to back, because when Amazon renewed it, they renewed it for 2 seasons.
Well, hopefully it won't be until 2026 when we see that 3rd season. So
shorter. At the rate they're going.
Talking about things returning, It has been confirmed that Cobra Kai, we're going to get Cobra Kai season 6, and it is going to be its final season, which is a shocker not to me because they clearly have run out of storyline.
Yeah, it's time.
It's time.
It's time. I mean, we to our credit, we were on the Cobra Kai train way back in the YouTube days when it was released, season 1 and 2 on YouTube. So we were like the rest, a lot of the fans who like just found it when it went to Netflix in that 3rd season. So, but yeah, seeing how the storyline has gone, and I know even the 5th season we were delayed in talking about it because there were like
priorities.
Yeah, just a slow thing called House of the Dragon on the and that premiered at the same time, but
shows.
Yeah, just those shows. Yeah.
But like, to your point, you're sitting here, those late people, if I recall correctly, Will, I think I watched it before you did, and then I had to convince you to watch.
You did. Yeah.
He's
So
mighty, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, you're the OG Cobra Kai watcher.
And yet
for sure.
And yet I still hate Sam.
I know. That's been consistent.
It won't go away. I just don't like her. I think she's a horribly written character.
Yep. You have been consistent from day one with that.
Yep. Very consistent.
Yeah.
And so on that news, it was interesting when the news about Doom Patrol kind of came out, which it's not really news because they haven't confirmed it, but from what I understand, it's looking as though the 5th season might not happen or will be its final season. Which of those scenarios?
Ooh, the way Diane Guerrero. So just to give folks context, so Diane Guerrero, who plays Crazy Jane, posted on our Instagram story a photo that said "Goodbye, my beloved," and it was her character. And so she quickly deleted it, but of course, everything is forever on the internet. So someone screen grabbed it, and the question is now, like you said, which is it? Is it did she get word that season 4 is it? And and maybe that was she was posting that just to express her sadness that the show's coming to an end, and or like you said, it could be the other scenario where they'll get a 5th season renewal, but it's a 5th and final. So, I guess
or she's just trolling.
I don't think it was trolling.
or like maybe she's not going to be in any future seasons, but I personally, I love Doom Patrol. Even though it's kind of fallen off a bit, I still have a love of these characters. That being said, if you were to tell me 4B will be the last of it, I'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
It feels as though, because every time we talk Doom Patrol for the last few seasons, we've been very consistent that a lot of it's recycled.
Yeah.
And not in a good way, in a kind of, okay, you're losing with every load that gets washed, or you are losing the magic that made this story so compelling initially. And I think where the characters are right now, they could do a really good job with a send-off based on everything going on with Immortus and the realization of their own immortality and them being Doom Patrol. I think that it could be a good ending. Adding another season, then I'll just be curious. Okay, so how are you stretching it? But yeah, it's, whether it's this season or next season, I don't think it should go beyond a season 5. I really don't. Yep. Unless they want to do what we all wanted like 2 seasons ago, which would be Cliff and Stone.
Yep.
We did want that show at one point. So if you're going to tell me that would be season 5, yay!
Yay, yeah. Stone and Steel would be that would be an awesome spinoff for sure.
Oh my God. And I mean, Brendan Fraser just, he did get nominated for the Oscar. I saw that.
Yep.
I saw, like, I saw a lot of the known things. I'll be very curious with if it's going to be him or Austin Butler who wins. Everybody should watch Switched at Birth. Just saying, even though he's only in like 2 seasons, but I saw Austin Butler a long time ago. Anyway, what was I going to say about the Oscar nominations? Oh, speaking about calling things, Will, I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when we discussed the Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer, did I or did I not say give her the Oscar? I was like, give her the Oscar. She's gonna win.
I'm pretty sure you did.
She's gonna win. Me and everyone else, because this is the submission for the Oscar scene was in the trailer. That's all you needed to see and be like, give her the Oscar. And this just brings me back to one of my gripes about the movie. It should have been her that Shuri sees in the afterlife. I'm just saying, you have a performance like that, you just want more of it. You want more of it.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, she carries that film clearly, and
so good.
Yeah, and her, it was like, it's almost too bad that the film wasn't bad, but clearly it wasn't like the first Black Panther. Now that I've had some time to think about it, I mean, I like Wakanda Forever, but obviously the first one did get nominated for Best Picture, and it was like, it's too bad her performance was not in that Best Picture nomination as well. But that being said, given that she did have this performance, and and this is her second nomination, and a lot of people forget that yes, she was nominated for What's Love Got to Do with It, but she did not win. So she's due.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at I know the other people in the category. I mean, it's Jamie Lee Curtis, who's also due. Stephanie Hsu and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah.
I don't like that idea of like people getting it for a career. I think if you deliver an incredible performance, then it should go to that person. Like anytime you talk about snubs at Oscars, it's because somebody got it because of their career and not because they had the best performance that year.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, and I'm not saying it's like
politics of it all, and it being majority white old men who vote, but
even though
I just think that me having watched probably 2% of the films that are nominated, I think I'm rooting for her, obviously. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is gonna just slaughter all the categories they are in. And I'm at a toss. Like, this is one of the few times where I'm like, give it to Brendan, give it to Austin, either one. But I will be shocked if it goes to neither.
See, I'm thinking it's probably going to go to Colin Farrell because everybody keeps talking about the Banshees.
Okay, the Banshees sucked. I watched 10 minutes of that movie. Boring as fuck. And everyone who watches Elvis comes out of that movie and says Austin Butler carries that movie and it is uncanny. And he's on screen with Tom Hanks. So it's pretty hard for someone to outshine like such a beloved actor. And then at the same time, like, we all have heard about this performance in The Whale. So we've heard about it since I think it was Sundance, where it got one of those long ass standing ovations. And he's like, sometimes Oscars, to go back to my point about giving Oscars for the career as opposed to great performance, sometimes Oscars just like that headline of a comeback story. And so they'll give it just to have those headlines. So I don't know. And maybe you're right. Maybe they'll just give it to Colin Farrell because they want somebody to get snubbed. Who knows? But yeah, I'm trying to think, but those are all the things I know about the Oscars this year. Because remember, as of 2020, I stopped believing in the Oscars.
I know you did. The only thing I would add, obviously, Michelle Yeoh was nominated for actress in the leading role, of course. I guess, and I think it as far as the momentum, it seems after she seems to have it. So but I know a lot of folks are really high on Kate Blanchett for Tar, but that's one I haven't seen yet, so I can't compare it to. But I know you had talked about Michelle Williams of the Fabelmans when we did our best of 2022 and how that rings in me, your discussion about every time I hear the Fabelmans, I immediately think of you.
I like 40% of that movie is good, and then 60% is not. And one of the things that irritated me was her performance. And I love Michelle Williams. I'm an old school fan of Dawson's Creek. Like, love Michelle Williams. She should have gotten it for what is that movie with Casey Affleck? And Casey Affleck did win for it.
I know which one you're talking about.
It's a sad movie that I've only ever seen one time. Never gonna watch it again. It's really depressing. But if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. She should have gotten it for that, and she wasn't even in that movie for that long. But I don't think. I honestly, like you were saying, it's really between Michelle Yeoh and Kate Blanchett, and I think everyone else is just nominated because they needed to nominate 5 people. So
and I know and then as far as genre, the Batman, as far as things that we talk about here on this show regularly, it got
No, I did hear about the Batman nomination.
Yeah, the Batman got 3. Yeah. All technical stuff as far as sound and hair, makeup, and visual effects.
Cinematography.
I know.
Cinematography.
And that was one of the best points of that film. I mean, it was shot beautiful. It was dark, but it was, I guess maybe that's what probably kept it from getting.
Maybe.
People it's just too dark.
I can't really see. Yeah. I remember very little from that movie. I have no idea why. It was so dark. It's literally a dark spot in my memory. As time has progressed, it and other things, because I did watch, for example, Everything Everywhere All at Once and Top Gun Maverick, which both were nominated for Best Picture, and and even like when we did our countdown last year at the end of the year, as far as films, I did go with Maverick just slightly, and I'm sticking with that. I actually am. So. Oh, I have no doubt. I don't think you're going to change your mind. I don't think I'm going to watch any more movies from last year.
I am curious about The Well now, though, because that's one of those ones. I heard a lot about Brendan Fraser's performance and all, so I may check that one out. Oh
yeah, the Whale is on my list of when I see it become available for hopefully free on one of the subscriptions I have. I will definitely watch it. But yeah, I don't we already go out of our way to watch these movies in theaters because we don't want to get spoiled. So on movies that are much lower budget, I'm like, I'm not going to get spoiled. So
Yes.
I don't want to go out of my way, spend money, take time, but yeah, I am curious about that movie and a few others, but we'll see.
Same here. Yep, same.
All right. So brings us to the main event of this podcast right now, which is us talking about The Last of Us season 1 on HBO Max. And I was surprised by this episode because I was not expecting it to start with a flashback. And from what I understand and what I've heard is that the next episode will have the flashbacks. So now I'm very curious if they're going to continue that structure throughout the entire season, or if they're going to continue it long enough and then we're going to be caught off guard when suddenly it's maybe a flash forward or it's not a flashback. So I'm just curious of how long we're going to go with the flashbacks. That being said, I don't mean to, like, I kind of get a little joy out of starting with negatives. I don't know why. I was very bored by this flashback.
Really?
Okay, I was,
Huh.
okay? Because I'm here to watch Joel and Ellie. I'm like, oh man, we get it. People got infected. I don't care. I mean, in hindsight, and I've heard things, I've seen things that say, oh, like this just confirms of why Sarah and Joel didn't get infected because it started at a flower plant, and in the first episode they didn't eat the baked goods and all of that.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's cool. It's awesome. In the moment, me watching it, I was like, okay, they're really dragging this out.
See, I had the exact opposite reaction.
Oh, I knew you would.
Yeah,
I just for whatever reason, and it's nothing about the performances.
Yeah.
It's just I just wanted to get back to Ellie and Joel. I just did.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, with the way it started, the cold open again, and I think that it was just all the settings, like, because I was like as I was watching episodes, I was like taking notes about it. Like one of the things I saw in the hospital whenever they took the SARS, yeah. I mean, just those, because it contextualized the time period where we're at, and also, in real life, Asia was really dealing with the SARS epidemic at that time. Right. So with that, and then you come across this fungus, and of course, and they go in the lab, and you carry forward the things that they had from the first episode. And I remember the showrunners talking about that on their podcast, how there are things that were introduced in the first episode that will show themselves over the series. I like that because it was that connectivity to the story. So that, for me, seeing that open, and then and like you said, the performance of whenever she and the general are sitting there, and both of them both of them trying to reassure each other in some sense, and also both of them afraid of each other because, again, knowing Indonesia, and it was just coming out of a very tumultuous period anyway with their governance. Neither one of them trust one another, because if she sees the military guy coming, oh God, they're going to take me away. And if he's coming to her, he's just like, we have this super bug that could kill us all. So,
they didn't even know what they had.
They didn't know what they had, but he knew it was. But the thing is, he knew it was something that was so.
He knew it was bad, but he asked for it here. He asked for a cure and immune, and that's when she looks at him as like, dude, there is none. Bomb the city.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we finally got to the point. No,
well,
I know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the alternative thing they were toying around with was, I guess, given Tessa's background as far as an open.
Well, I see, and I listened to the podcast after the show as well, and actually only 2 hours ago, and they talked a little bit about Tessa's background.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we didn't get a Tess flashback.
I agree.
Because for the road, in my crystal ball of somewhat knowing what's going to happen, that could become so tropey if they continue that. So I kind of am glad we didn't. She didn't need it. The performance itself was very nuanced to where I think it would have undermined the performance. So if they were going to start with a flashback, I'm glad that they chose this one. It's just during it, I was kind of like, okay, can I hit fast forward for me? And I know I'm in the minority on this, but you guys love it when I'm in the minority on
this. No, that's
I have to.
Yeah, this is why we do this, because
I have to, and then I have to make fun of Will for liking everything.
Yeah, and I just have to do the face palm. I'm like, yep, there she goes, making fun of me again.
Oh my god.
But I mean, hell, if we agreed on everything, then it would be a very boring time. So
yeah. And so after that, we do get to present day and morning, and Tess and Joel trying to figure out what they were going to do with this quote unquote infected kid. And I mean, Bella Ramsey is just kicking her performance out of the park.
Yeah.
I like to clarify, I've never actually played the game, but I've watched the cutscenes. I've heard the voice. I've seen people play the game multiple times. It is uncanny how she is not doing an impression of Ashley Johnson, but they are eerily similar. And I keep thinking about it, and I thought about it while I was watching this episode. It's why I like her performance so much. And it's not that I don't think that they captured it as well in the game. I think by having this be a TV adaptation, the fear in Ellie being a child is more viewed and more performed on screen than it is in the game. If that makes sense. Because I think that a lot of time, for me, on the outskirt, Ellie can come off as a very trope character. Like we've watched enough movies, TV shows to know like the badass kid who's an orphan and 9 times out of 10 grows up to be a superhero. Okay, orphans become superheroes. And they take no shit and all this stuff. And she doesn't. So at the same time, in one instance, she's saying like in response to Joel, no, you're a weird kid. Great line, great delivery. But in the other instance, it's like, so plan B is we all die. Yeah, I don't want that one. Like, and there's these moments of eye contact between her and Joel throughout this episode and last episode where suddenly she's the kid. Like they're walking a very fine line. And they're executing it perfectly. Like with Bella's performance and with Pedro's performance as well, because he's in that same boat. His character can also come off as very stereotypical, but there's these nuances and these subtleties where he's afraid too. Or as we were talking last week, it's not that he's lost empathy, it's that his life literally was on pause. I mean, his watch is still broken to that moment when his daughter died. And now slowly he's becoming awakened as this new responsibility of this person he's managed to acquire. And we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts about the performances?
Performances, you're right. They are. I guess this is where, like you've seen the cutscenes and all that. I guess this is where you can only the limitations of stop motion, and then regular acting, like traditional acting screen, like we're seeing here with an adaptation, really shows itself. And I mean, I've seen like the comparisons. I mean, I know there was one that showed those looks and everything, but you're right. I mean, some of that, if Pedro and Bella Ramsey, if they like just did a simple imitation of Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, then we wouldn't be having this conversation about why this show works so well as far as an adaptation now, because it wouldn't be an adaptation. It would just be a recreation of the game. And so all those moments and all those little points that when we see those looks and those lookaways and the reactions, and like Joel walking away whenever at the end of the episode when the building blows up and stuff, and we don't know what the meaning is. Is he like going back to Boston, right, the city, or is he, all those little things like that really is where an adaptation of an IP really comes into play. And I think that's one of the reasons why the show is resonating so much and growing. I mean, hell, it's like, grew 22% over the initial audience for the second week because of that. Because I think the word of mouth for both clearly is working for people who've played the game, and it's working for people like me who never did.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, to go off of your point about how if they were just doing imitations, then the show, like, we wouldn't be having this discussion. I honestly don't agree with that, because if I didn't watch the cutscenes, then I wouldn't know that they were doing an imitation.
Right.
So I wouldn't know, like, oh, this doesn't feel right. I would just be like, oh, because they'd like those performances are great, and they like, so it's hard to say if it was an imitation, would this show be working as well, or have that surge in audience? Because yes, it's a very popular game, but you can't tell me that all of the viewers played the game. I was talking to someone today and they had no idea it was based on the game.
True. Yeah. Well, I guess my point is more like for people who have played the game.
Absolutely. And that's what I was going to say too, is that for people who have, that's why they're staying and praising it, is because for them, it doesn't feel as, I have seen this 9,000 times, give me something new. Like, it's just like what I was saying before about them walking a fine line with the character tropes. Just being an adaptation of a game that has so much story to it, they're walking a very fine line between recycling things versus bringing a new, like, being familiar, making it a familiar world, and then with like a slight twist.
Right.
Because and it's funny because I think about when they walk into the hotel and it's water, and I instantly got this weird flashback. But at the same time, I was like, but wait a second. If I recall correctly, Tess wasn't with them during this. So what happened? And that was confirmed later on with some reactions that the way this episode plays out is not necessarily exactly according to how it plays out in the game.
Right.
I knew Tess was going to die.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was when I referenced going too far down the rabbit hole last week. That was the one thing I was like, oh.
You had me so, Will, you've had me worried and angry for a week because I was like, oh my God, if he went here, then I'm going to kill him. He went way too far. But you're telling, okay, man, okay, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah, and I'm so glad I had forgotten. But look at that, guys. Everyone, keep in mind, Ellie can't swim. Okay, it's a very important piece of information, and not for the things that you think it is, but it's just it's comical how often that is brought up in the game. But I like that it is brought up. And it's not just because in the game she can't swim and so they have to do this mission to teach her us. No, it's brought up because they explain it like, why would you assume she would? Yeah. She was born in this world. She was born in the QZ. What would she learn?
Yeah. You can't get out to the local Y doesn't exist anymore.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I have a confession, Will. Okay. I have a confession. And you might be like, yeah, I figured that would happen. I will admit that during the quote unquote scary parts of this episode, I was doing something
don't feel bad. It was hard for me to make. I've been when I've been hearing like this evening, I was bringing trash can in, and I heard something click in the yard. I did. I looked back. I was like, "Oh shit! Is there a clicker behind me?"
and I'm also like, it's not just a clicking thing. I'm just action sequences. It's very hard, and I'm just like, just kill Tess.
No, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad because it was hard for me to get through that with the echolocation and then seeing them, and then and this is to again thinking about our discussions we've had about practical effects and prosthetics versus CG, and that just added to it. It's just like the Demogorgon and the Stranger Things kind of gives me the willies too, but the clickers, like I said, I kid you not, I did a double take because I was that image of that the first time we see one of those things popped in my head.
Yeah, it's really well done, and it's sad we haven't mentioned this, and we're already talking about the clickers, but Neil directed this episode, and I think it's his first time directing television at all.
So. Yeah,
he's, for those who don't know, creator of the game, directed all of that, and this is a plug for their after show podcast. If you're not listening to it, you should, especially because it was fascinating to hear him explain the differences between directing the actors for the game versus directing the actors for the screen and what the differences are. I never really thought about it before.
Yeah.
But
especially the clicker scene, because if I recall from the podcast, they actually filmed it differently, and then Craig Mazin, who is is showrunner and coach, said no, we can't go with that. And fortunately, Neil did. I think he had it with he had it with blur and then unblur, if I recall, as far as the and then he talked about what worked better and when they were in the editing bay.
Yeah. It's the podcast is really nice because it's pretty much a chance to hear commentary on an entire episode that you just watched, just like you would if you were watching a director's commentary on a movie. And so I find it fascinating, and to do a very good job about not exposing anything to come.
Yeah.
So, because then I would shut that down real fast for Will. Be like, nope. You can't listen to that.
Stay away.
Stay away.
Yeah. Speaking of the clickers and that sequence, that, you know, because one of the things I know that they did switch over from, and they talked about this in the podcast, and I know other sources has as well, is how they have changed the transmission of the fungus, and I like that change too, because, you know, it added that element with, especially when Tess, Joel, and Ellie were at the top of the hotel overlooking the city, and they saw all the dormant infected down below. It really gave the scale of the, you know, this infection, and, you know, they thought going this route was the long way. They thought this was going to be the safe way to go. But then how they adapted that, you know, the fungus and the echolocation, and also the mitochondrial lane, you know, assault, it added to that element of how pervasive this thing is, and the real risk that they were having to, like, traverse the city. And again, I didn't know, you know, did not know that it was airborne in the game versus as far as, and you know, I knew about the biting, transmitting it, but the airborne versus the way they're doing it here, you know, really added to me the fear element of, like, anywhere you step is like you're at risk.
Right. I will be honest, I didn't really remember too much about how it was transmitted in the game, so I didn't. I was more impressed by how much this episode, when they're going through the town, like, it's eerily quiet, except for every now and then you hear, like, a loud ass clicker scream off in the distance, and I liked how, as much as there were these long sequences of fear and tension with the clickers and the threat of being killed, there were these moments of quietness and allowing these three characters to, well, the adults, to really be like, this is the world, kid. This is the reality. This is like, and for Ellie to just, because, and I can't emphasize this enough, she was born in this world, and you really are starting to see that as she's walking through this and being like, well, where is everything? Like, I was told these stories, and now I'm here, and it's not adding up. While at the same time dealing with this reality that it does have an immunity, but as Tess quickly points out, you have an immunity not to become infected. You don't have an immunity of death.
Yeah.
Okay? They can still kill you, kid.
Yep.
And I think that's very important, to go back to my first point about Ellie's innocence and her that making sure she remains an innocent in the eyes of those who are protecting her, because she that allows us to have empathy for her. Like we don't want her to be some superhero who can't die. No, for everything that's the road ahead, we need stakes. We need to feel attached to these characters and to their bonds. And so when I was listening to reactions of the first episode, people were like, I really like Tess. And I'm like, oh, Lord help you. Like her while you can. And so I think we should get to Tess now. I liked her more here than I did in the game. I again, everything that they explained in the podcast about her background, I'm glad I didn't know that. And I kind of wish I still didn't, because I found I liked her more here because it was so nuanced, the fact that at first she's like, this kid is infected, what the heck? And then she realizes, no, she's telling the truth. There's immunity, and like this evolution of oh my God, we have hope. And then I'm infected now, but I want there to be something left of it. Like, I'm dead, but for some reason I want Joel to make me redeemed by getting this kid. And I do like that line, and they did talk about this on the show, about how there's this now more new line of save who you can save.
Yeah.
And I like that send off, and then and it clicking in Joel, and just Joel's whole reaction to this, where at first he wants to kill Ellie, or he just wants to leave her. Like he's not seen, she is a means to an end, but she can't be the means to his end.
Yeah.
He's still in survival mode, so he's like, we'll figure it out, find a different way. And I think it's important for him not to have that hope, even though there are so many moments where in Pedro's eyes you can just see, like, well, they're not going to kill the kid. Like he balances of like I want to make sure she's okay versus I still don't understand you. Like, you're a weird kid.
Yeah. You're a weird kid. Yeah. You're a weird kid. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I was thinking about what you were saying about Tess, and I'm I can see both sides of, of knowing her background.
Mm-hmm.
No, on the one hand, I'm glad, as we were saying earlier, this when we were talking this evening, I'm glad they did not have that scene of her background filmed. And for folks who haven't listened to the podcast, I'll spoiler alert for like 10 seconds. Basically, her family was infected. Her husband, she kills her husband, but she could not bring herself to kill her son, so she locks him up. So, end of spoiler of that podcast. But so whenever she says that, and save who you can save, when I first watched the episode, I didn't know that background, so it landed a lot. I will say it did land a lot better for me, raw, not knowing what her story is, because it that line in and of itself demonstrates she also lost someone like Joel did. We didn't know and more likely than not, it was probably due to the fungus, and so knowing it now, I'm like, yeah, okay. It I guess it does. On the one hand, it does deepen it, but also it's like, I'm glad, but it also reinforces why I'm glad they didn't put it in there.
Yeah, I just let's just hope that line gets brought up again, because I have some reasons for liking it, and I don't want to get too in depth into why, but to your point about the contrast between these two parents who have both lost their own kids to this in one form or another, I think it goes back to them, like, off the get-go, they're not good people.
Mm-hmm.
They're not good people in this place, in this world. And they became not good people because of those choices they made on Outbreak Day.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think for me, not knowing that about Tess, I think that just, I don't know. For some reason, it just really spoke to me. Like, I like how it serves more of a purpose for Joel than for, let me explain more about this character who's going to die in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to be attached to her. I need to be attached to him. So the line works for me because I know what it does with his story and where he's going. And for the rest of the story, I know the purpose.
Yeah.
But having it feed into hers, I'm like, I don't know, because what I felt like her whole circle she does in this episode with Ellie, and just this idea that this kid is a threat. No, wait, she's our hope.
Yeah.
She's my hope now. And it's a purpose. I think it was a very clear arc. And I don't think it needed to get muddied up anymore, and for a moment there, Will, I thought you were going to bring up the kiss.
Thankfully, there was one kiss, and then of course,
consider it a French kiss?
Huh?
Like, would you consider it a French kiss?
There was
no tongue. There was
tentacle. I guess it was its tongue to. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will be honest, I didn't think anything of it until I started listening to reactions and hearing people's opinions. And at the end of the day, was I like, oh my God, that's so cool? No. Was I like, why did they do that? No. I honestly dismissed
I know. I saw some of that reaction too. I haven't really, other than the official podcast, I haven't listened to any other ones. I have seen some things online and a couple of think pieces about. Here goes HBO. There was a couple of think pieces about HBO. Here they go again. Bringing up the Game of Thrones and treatment of women and. The violations and forcing, the creature forcing itself on it. I'll just, go thinking back and again, looking at my notes real time when I was watching the episode. To me, it was one of those things where I was really honestly what I was thinking was like, is she going, since I didn't know what was going to happen, I was really thinking, is she going to get this lighter lit or not? I mean, that was where my mind went.
Thank you. I had more problems with the lighter because it's such a cliche thing. Oh, I can't, final minute done. I'm like, why? See, I thought that was more cliche. And then when I was thinking about it more, about why the kiss, and this only got reaffirmed when I listened to the after show podcast, is because of what they were trying to do in the first episode with the connective tissue of love in this world gone wrong, in this scenario where love is killed and everything, and it's very dangerous to have love. And I think Neil even said, like, this infection, this fungus just wants to create more of itself. Do I think it was the right choice? No.
Yeah. I mean,
I really don't, in terms of to send that message. I still don't, I'm not convinced that it was a really smart choice, but it was a choice. It was a choice.
Yeah. And did it further anything? No. It didn't. And so for the people who are critical about the things that people read into it, whether it was an assault or was it just like gratuitous, jump scare stuff that we see in horror films and whatnot. it didn't serve anything more. I mean, she was going to get it, and she was already starting to like. I guess I know they also noted that if she ran, then it would have been a more violent reaction from the clickers and the infected. So they thought this would be a way to, like, I guess that's how they chose to shoot this shot. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I didn't think it added anything more. I thought it was overhyping the drama a bit. They were milking it with the lighter flicking thing, because at that point I was like, just light the damn thing already. I know it's what I know it's going to work.
Yeah, in a way, there were a few moments in this episode, and that's why I'm not as high on it as I was last week, but where I'm just like, I know this chapter of the game. it really could have been a half-hour episode. Yeah.
But I will say
they stretched some stuff.
Yeah, but I will say I do agree with their decision to switch it from being Vedra to how things played out in this episode as far as the threat and her demise.
I like, honestly, I said my gripes, the only gripes that I had with the episode, and it's very minimal. And yes, I do state again and again of my familiarity, but when I say familiarity, I mean, like, it astonishes me of what I'm like when I have those flashback moments. And it never ceases to amaze me of how often I'm like, yeah, I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of that. So I didn't really remember that. I just knew she died, and I kind of knew the circumstances and some other stuff. But yeah, I looking back on it, I'm like, this episode should be the shortest of the season, because honestly, not much happens.
Yeah.
And I guess, and another thing I kept thinking about is, and this goes back earlier of when I was like, I just want to get to Joel and Ellie. Like, truly, when I watch the show and why I love the story so much and why I really was impressed by the first episode is because of these characters. I like the character moments. If this episode had been them walking through along that highway the entire time, I would have been like, yes. Oh, yeah. Teach Ellie how to swim.
Yeah.
But like the and you need action, you need that like there's a real threat here. So I personally, I think they stretched a lot of sequences more than they should have. And I'm not necessarily fixated on that first scene. Like, there's some other ones where I'm like, okay, we could have cut like 2 minutes there. And the lighter, that, again, to your point, that aggravated me more than the kiss. But, it's only chapter 2. And from what I understand, we have because I guess people who have seen the screeners, they got 4 episodes.
Oh, some people got the whole season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I hear like we haven't. I guess I will just say, I guess from what I understand, we have not seen the best episode yet.
Yeah, I hear some people I've listened to before, when I was listening to reactions who did get the full thing, said the third episode was like chef's kiss. And
from what I remember of the chapter, I'm like, okay, that would make sense why it would be up there. I'm definitely looking forward to some other chapters, but we're only gonna started. We got 7 more weeks of this Last of Us journey. So far, visually, performance-wise, really impressed, despite my gripes. Like, I'm doing nitpicks, people. Yeah. I love this show. I hate the scary things.
Oh, I know. We kind of got to the bloaters and all this, the others and everything else.
My God. The bloaters.
Yeah.
loaders. Oh man.
Yeah.
But
and that's not spoil anything. I saw them in the trailer, so I do know that. So
yeah.
But but I agree with you. I will say I agree that this was needed. This episode was for me was the right length. I think it did what it needed to do, which was to get them out of Boston and on to the next chapter in their journey.
Yeah. Get them out of Boston. All right. Well, on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.cnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night. Geek out. You're welcome.